Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Scoop World Order. We are going to get into another Bama portal transfer target potentially for Ohio State. An old friend, Sean Murphy, is in the portal. Not sure if he fits, but we're going to talk a little bit about him. Michigan, last one out, turn off the lights. Jim Harbaugh interviewing with LA. JJ McCarthy gone. Blake Corum gone. What does that mean? Sanctions incoming. And also the latest on the offensive coordinator search and a new defensive end. It looks like we're going to get very soon here. So we're going to get into all that. As always, I hope you guys are having a great Sunday. A lot of great playoff football starting in about an hour. So we're going to get out of here right before kickoff. So I hope you guys enjoy this with us. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also click that little alert bell. We're going to get right into it, Nevada. Michigan. I mean, JJ, there was their little ceremony last night in the arena, packed. I think that Michigan fans had some sort of a strange false hope, like they've had this whole time with the sanctions, where JJ McCarthy was going to come back and Harbaugh's going to sign his extension. And it ain't happening because, like, when JJ McCarthy got up to that podium and talked and he said, "Hey, no matter what, I'm going to be a Michigan man forever. I love this place, blah, 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 blah." I'm like, he's gone. Because that's the perfect opportunity to announce you're coming back, like Tim Tebow did in '08, or Harbaugh to announce he signed his extension. You're in a packed house. You're at the pinnacle of your career. You just won a national championship. You're celebrating it in a full basketball arena or at a hockey arena, wherever they were at. But neither of them did it. And Corum's gone. JJ's gone. Chris Jenkins is gone. The linebacker's gone. Zinter's gone. The really good guard. I mean, what's left, Nevada?
Well, look, basically everything we told you was going to happen to Michigan has happened. Everything. And everything that the Michigan insiders, boards, message boards, social media, jamokes, whatever you want to call, has been wrong. So I hope that we at this point have a modicum of credibility with you guys on this Michigan stuff, because Harbaugh was out of here. I've been saying it's the Chargers. They're the heavy betting favorites right now. You could have made some money on that. McCarthy was gone. Corum's gone. Sanctions incoming. The I mean, they know what's happening. They all know. They all know because they all knew when the thing was going down. And as the NCAA digs deeper into this, and as it becomes more and more evident by the NCAA's actions, by what they're saying, by what they're not saying to Michigan, that Michigan was trying to get that first level one sanction adjudicated. They tried it with a 3-game suspension. They even offered on top of that to have additional suspensions for next year, and the NCAA said no go. The NCAA is combining the cases, which puts them into repeat offender status because they have multiple level one sanctions on different infractions in the same county. So it's supposed to be within 5 years, within the same calendar year. And Michigan's done. Michigan is done, and I think the only open question right now is how deep can. I mean, we all know how deep it went, but how deep can they prove it? And does Sharon Moore, does the other guys get pulled down with this? I have not heard that the NCAA has been able to prove a direct link to them yet. But you have to remember all the FBI stuff, the ongoing criminal investigation on the Weiss computer thing. None of that's been part of the mix yet. And so, as that because that's going to be the next thing to watch for. Watch for when they announce the charges on that. When they start going, because it's been eerily quiet from a criminal standpoint on this guy that gets summarily dismissed. The police announce they're opening an investigation, and then nothing's been heard on it. When that'll be the next thing to drop. Then the NCAA drops theirs in March or April, and then all the fun begins. But in the meantime, all the rats leave the ship, as we told you was going to happen. This thing about Harbaugh signing an extension was all fantasy about JJ McCarthy and his feng shui shoes returning, and Corum going for another Oompa Loompa year at Michigan. None of it was going to happen. They're all gone. It's all over for Michigan, and I am firmly of the opinion that their national championship will be vacated. So all of this will just be just a smoking hole by the time they're done.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating to see. Jim Harbaugh leaves. that portal opens for 30 days, and there's going to be some guys that are going to be like, you know what? My lasting memory of Michigan was us hoisting the trophy and 15-0, and let's just shut the book on that chapter and go to a contender, go to a winner, go to somewhere that's not going to be blasted into smithereens by the NCAA. Depleted roster. I mean, I've seen, teams that are exceptionally senior laden. Not to the degree of this team with 44, but like, in 03, my freshman year, we had like 20 starters back from the team that beat the Miami Hurricanes. So like we were a very old team, a very senior laden team, a very experienced team. So, that's great for that year. But then that next year in 04, we were like one of the youngest teams in college football, and we got killed. I mean, we had some of the we lost to Iowa, got killed, Wisconsin. So like, do guys that have tasted this level of success and this level of excellence and bushwhacked opponents, do they want to be the bushwackee now? That now that you got to go see Ohio State and you got to go see Texas and you got to go see Oregon and Washington and and Washington's pretty depleted, but Oregon's not. They're loaded. I don't know. I mean, like I said, excuse me. Like if you're Jim Harbaugh, you're never going to have a higher peak than right now. It can only go down. And it's like, do you want to leave your alma mater on top in the best place it's ever been? Or at least like in this finite moment, not perpetuity of the program, because the program's about to get destroyed. Again, it's like when you do something like they did with Connor Stallions, like you're this very definition of robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like, okay, well, we're gonna get ours, and then when the bill comes due, we are running out, and whoever walks into the table is gonna have to pay that bill, and it ain't gonna be fun. So, but yeah, I wasn't. I mean, again, like I always have these. There's always things. It was kind of like Trey Henderson in December, like saying the whole time he's coming back. He's coming back. In the history of Ohio State, since we've had guys as good as Trey that have played that position at running back, they never come back for the senior year ever. And Trey's different. He's very different, obviously. But so I always had a layer of, I mean, it's not skepticism, but it is. I mean, a running back as good as him coming back for a senior year just doesn't happen in modern football. And it's kind of like JJ McCarthy is such a wacky kid and whatever. There was a part of me that thought maybe he'd run it back, but man, like when he declares, all of a sudden you're like, Jesus, like these guys know what's coming. And again, if you've got an option, if you've got a golden parachute like JJ does to be first, second round pick quarterback, take it. Harbaugh's gonna make $25 million a year as a coach in the league. Watch. I mean, Sean Payton got 26. Sean Payton was, playing golf and going down to Atlantis and partying all the time. Like he wasn't working the way Harbaugh's been working the last few years and rebuilding Michigan and winning a national championship. Like Harbaugh, it's amazing how in 2 years, he went from being a guy that had an Ohio State win on his resume to now he's like the undefeated national champion. And he goes from like having an interview and multiple interviews and all day interviews with Minnesota to now he just gets to, hey, you're not going to really get an interview. You can offer me a job. And that's kind of it. But he's like the hot candidate now. So I think honestly, it's great for Ohio State. Again, this offseason has, like, short of Kirby Smart going to the Falcons, like, I don't know how else this could break any better for Ohio State, like, just in terms of the national landscape and the national picture, because, you've got Nick Saban retiring, Jim Harbaugh's going to leave, their entire roster is gone. We enhanced our roster as much as I've ever seen ever at Ohio State. I mean, we got a new stud quarterback, got the best running back in the country. Like, I've never seen anything like it. And then we get J.J. Smith and Edric Houston, who are like 6-star guys. Nevada, talk a little bit about the combination of everything that's happened in the last week and what's probably going to happen in the next week with Michigan and Ryan Day and what he's done in the portal. How great has this been for Ohio State?
Yeah, no, it's like you said, everything's broken perfectly. And I'll throw into that mix too that the next year is the expanded playoff, and the expanded playoff is going to reward the team that's the deepest, not just necessarily the team that's kind of the luckiest and can kind of dodge bullets for 12, 13, 14 weeks, but it's gonna really recognize who's the deepest team, and on paper, Ohio State is definitely that group, and you know, it's it's a good time to be an Ohio State fan. Ohio State seems to be figuring out NIL. Stuff like we used to talk about all the off-field incidents, academic scandal. The days of Reggie Germany and the 0.0 GPA. We're seemingly past a lot of that, and so no, it's definitely Look, it's a great time to be an Ohio State fan, and for Michigan fans, they got their national championship, but at what price? I mean, Harbaugh had to cheat to kind of get his program back on track. And look, part of me respects the fact that he did what he had to do to win, but he's a cheater, and he'll forever be known as a cheater. Their program will forever be known as the cheating program, and to me, that's not worth the trade off. To me, I do have a little bit of pride in terms of what the Ohio State brand means, and the Michigan brand forever will be known as the cheaters. And this is before the NCAA stuff comes. The NCAA stuff's come out has been about 2%. When the whole report comes out and the whole thing gets published, and I'm not talking, this isn't like some dossier like the Michigan people are talking about. They're waiting to charge Ryan Day with treason and stuff like. This is like the NCAA findings that they're going to have. It's all going to be there, and it's going to be there forever, and it's going to chase Michigan around like the Scarlet Letter, and it's going to be glorious. So great time to be an Ohio State fan. Really crappy time to be a Michigan fan, looking into the future. It's like you're on one of those old sailing ships, and you look ahead, and all you see is like these big storms and giant waves, and you're on this boat, and you're about to get rocked and probably thrown down to the bottom of the ocean. That's what it's like to be a Michigan fan today. So, hey, it's I can't wait for next year, and I can't say Michigan fans feel the same way.
Yeah, it's like Lance Armstrong, honestly, to me. It's like, a guy that people like had this false hope of where, well, maybe he really does just work way harder. Maybe he really just is that much better, or that much tougher. He's never failed a drug test. It's like, I mean, he never failed a drug test because his drugs are so sophisticated. They're ahead of the test, like way ahead of the test. So, I mean, people bought into that dopiness. It's just like, I mean, he's like Harbaugh, like just a total dope. Peddled his Live Strong brands, made a fortune. I mean, made hundreds of millions of dollars, and he's like the biggest cheater of all time. Like he's like persona non grata. Like nobody respects Lance Armstrong anymore. Tried to come back clean, got his clock cleaned. That's what Michigan's gonna look like. Michigan, it's amazing they let them play in this game, but they did. But that's just kind of the way of the world right now. Well, Nevada, the portal's starting to fill up with Crimson Tide members. So Sean Murphy is our old friend from Virginia. Kind of a Samish linebacker. I'm not sure if he's a fit for us now, but he is an interesting name. Another kid who literally just jumped in is this kid, Amari Nebach. I mean, he was the number one tight end in the country, 5-star 2022 class. So he's been in a few years, 2 years of eligibility left. Not a ton of production, but again, I think that this is going to be the trend because they still have like 25, 6 days, 4 days left of portal. And I mean, these are big time kids. This is literally the number one tight end from 2 years ago. And again, I know that this is why I don't always get obsessed with star rankings because this kid was the number one tight end in his class, and he's been in college for 2 years. And last year he had 20 catches and 4 touchdowns. Now, would I take him? Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we need a talent injection in our tight ends room outside of Jelani Thurman. I don't think that we have many guys that are top tier guys. I'm sure this guy is a better athlete than any of those guys except for Jelani. But what does Bama look like to you in the next 20 days? How many more guys do you see jumping in?
Well, I mean, to me, what this indicates is just that Bama is open for business. And when DeBoer came in, it was going to go one of two ways. It was going to go. DeBoer was able to kind of round up all the little doggies and shut the corral door and hey, we're saddling them up and we're Bama for life. Or you're going to see guys jumping out, and it's been the guys jumping out thing. And I think right now, again, if you're Caleb Downs, because that's really what we want to talk about. We want to talk about Caleb Downs. We want to talk about Jaden Proctor. It's all about how's Alabama going to be going forward, and what type of team am I going to be playing with? Because you got to remember, for Caleb, it's not a one season thing. He's not one and done to the league. He's got 2 more years left. So he's got to figure out, where do I want to be for the next 2 years of my life? And I think that's why Ohio State is growing, increasingly optimistic with each passing day. The quiet you're hearing is not quiet on Ohio State's side. Let me assure you, these conversations are ongoing. The discussions with the representatives are, every day now. And I would say that they're actually increasing in operational tempo, not decreasing. So, I think every time you see another guy leave out the door to Alabama, to me, it just means that Alabama's open for business, and people are picking them off one at a time. And like I said, I think we'll know. I think we'll know on Caleb Downs here in the next few days. I don't think it's going to go much longer than that. And like I said, I don't really want to wager a guess in terms of whether he's going to go. All I can tell you with 100% certainty is that there's conversations that are ongoing. And that generally doesn't happen unless there's genuine interest.
Well, I think something that's really important is that you got to understand the tampering is incredible nowadays. It goes through the high school coach. The peoples reach out to the high school coach. High school coach is completely removed from the player and from the university, but usually has relationships with the parents and the player. So there's always a couple degrees of separation. So, it's either the high school coach, 7-on-7 coach, some coach that's got connections to Caleb. It's not a coach, because obviously you can't directly tamper; you'll get fired immediately. But I think that for a lot of these kids, it's really important that you have you kind of like you have your home before you actually jump in the portal. It's kind of like if you have a really good job, but somebody comes by and offers you a great job, like huge raise, bigger title, whatever floats your boat. Better location, better hours, whatever. It's kind of like that. Like, you want to make sure that the ink is dry on the contract. You got your starting date, everything's locked in before you go notify your current organization, hey, I'm out of here. See ya. I'm going to this better job, or they're paying me way more and they want me, whatever. It's like, because I think some of these kids, they just, they don't look before they leap. They dive headfirst out of the, they dive out of the program, dive into the portal. And then they show up to the party, and there's nobody there to greet them. So they're like, hey, I'm here. I'm in the portal. Hey, remember me? I was a 5-star in 2019. Hey, remember me? Army All-American game, whatever. And then it's like crickets. And then all of a sudden it's like, it's like going to the party where you're expecting hot chicks and it's nothing but fat chicks. And it's like, you're like, oh my God, like I don't have Georgia and Bama don't want me no more. Now it's Akron and Tennessee State and FAMU and that type of thing. And that's where, these Bama kids, they really got to be careful, because I think once they're out, they could be out, and again, a lot of these Bama kids they're 5-star kids, but have they performed like 5-star kids, and how long ago were they 5-star kids? Because it's one thing if you're a 5-star kid a year ago and you haven't played because maybe you're behind some superstar at Bama, but if you're a 5-star kid 3 years ago and you haven't played, we had that D tackle that went to South Carolina, and he was interested in Ohio State for like 3.5 minutes, and we were researching him, and then he'd already committed to South Carolina before we could even turn the podcast mic on. And but he was like a high 4-star D lineman, and in 3 years he had like 4 tackles, and I'm like, so that means he's really a 2-star. He's not really a 4-star or whatever. He couldn't even get in the rotation at Bama. So you got to really kind of reevaluate where these guys are when they don't play, or that's where guys like Mark Pantoni and his staff have to earn their, that's where they actually really have to earn money now, is that, you have to go back and reevaluate these guys. You can't just go look at their rivals profile and say, well, in 2021, they had Texas A&M and Florida State and Bama and Georgia. Now it's like, you got to go back and watch you might be watching like the end of games or spring games, or, he got in the last drive versus, Southern Methodist or something worthless like that, or something stupid. And you guys say, well, God, he looks terrible. God, he looks stiff. He looks slow. He looks fat. Then you got to go scratch and claw around, like a rodent, and go try to figure out, why isn't this guy playing? Oh, he's got a drug habit. Oh, he flunked out of school. He was ineligible. He's suspended. And a lot of that stuff it's not like they broadcast that if a guy's suspended or something. So, these guys got to go work their sources and say, hey, this guy was really good in high school, and We liked him. What happened to him? Should we proceed or not? And if you have like an honest connection with somebody who will give you good information, they'll say, "Nah, I'd let him go." And you're not missing anything here. Because again, like a lot of times, like you'd be surprised how honest high school coaches were with us when we were at Ohio State about their own players. Like, are we really missing anything here? And like we had a quarterback we were recruiting, and his own high school coach said, "Coach, you're not missing anything." And this is a kid that went to a huge school. He's an Ohio kid, and no, coach, you're not missing anything here. His own high school coach said that, and I was like, well, he knows. I mean, he's been around him for 4 years or whatever, and it was a guy that we were considering offering, and I mean, he was right on the cusp of getting an Ohio State offer, probably to change his life, and instead we let him go elsewhere, and it turned out he wasn't any good. Real quick, I just want to touch on Dom Kirks. I'm going to get into these super chats because they are piling up. Appreciate you guys. Dom Kirks wrapped his official up, got his offer. I don't even know what the odds would be on this, like minus 500,000 that he's going to commit to Ohio State. I mean, it'd be the worst odds of all time because this guy's committed to Washington. Washington has no coach. They didn't retain their OC. Their OC is going to Bama. He wanted to be the head coach. This kid's going to be a Buckeye. I don't know when. I don't know if he's going to get the edit done or whatever, but I mean, I would be beyond stunned if this kid did not commit in the next 24 to 48 hours. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, I think that's a safe one. That's yeah. Burt Carton displaying his recruiting chops. Man.
Genius.
Genius, man. That's
well, I mean, like, could you imagine this kid? Like, this kid probably dreamt, like every other Ohio kid, of being an Ohio State Buckeye, and he's committed to Washington. And Washington is like in vogue for like 7 weeks or whatever. Like they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. They look awesome. Beat Smash Texas. Oh boy, they're going to the national championship. Oh boy, I bought all my Washington purple gear. I'm wearing around high school. Hey, my school's in the championship. Where's Ohio State at? Oh, they lost the Cotton Bowl. And then all of a sudden, whole staff bulleted because Nick Saban retires, which nobody saw coming. And, all of a sudden you're like, I mean, if you're this guy, if you're Dominic Kirks, you don't even know who you can call at Washington anymore because they're all gone. And then all of a sudden, Larry Johnson shows up and gives you your dream offer. So this guy's got to be living right. Like he had to lit a candle at church or whatever. But hey, this is a guy that can take advantage of opportunities. We've missed on some DNs and some slots open, and this kid's going to have the opportunity that he didn't think he had, a couple weeks ago. So good for him. I root for kids like this. Again, I think he's got a lot of upside. We watched his tape. Actually, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to get his tape up. We're going to watch some of his tape while we take the super chats.
And Kirk, do not downplay yourself as this recruiting guru, dude. You are the recruiting guru. You're calling him. You're calling to Ohio State, and I'm just like,
I'm calling a 3.5 4-star D end from Ohio to Ohio State. Late process offer.
We should call it like a Crystal Burke or something like that. You need to have your
that
would
be good.
Yeah, you have
an
to
RPM.
Name.
An RPM. I like that. Can I call it like a multiplication sign?
Like
sweet.
a golden
multiplication sign. Sean Gardner, thank you for the 5. If you guys have questions, get the super chats fired up. We got a ton of them. We're gonna get through them real quick. Thanks for everything you guys do. Appreciate you, my man. Great insight every day. What the hell does that team up north do at quarterback? Depth chart is how it's gonna be that. It's gonna be the Orgy guy, right? I mean,
Orgy. We're gonna get to say Orgy like 100 times a game now. Orgy.
What's crazy is like, do you think they would have gone after McCord? I mean, if he would have waited to get in the portal, that would have been interesting. I mean, I don't think he fits their system, but I don't know. I also don't really care. But I mean, it'll be interesting because if they do promote Sherrone Moore, which again, if I'm Sherrone Moore, dude, I'm going with Harbaugh to the league. I'm going to the Chargers. I'm gonna go live in LA. I'm going to go eat Roscoe's Chicken and Wings and eat In-N-Out Burger every day. It'd be fantastic. But, I just, like, if I'm Sherrone, I'm like, dude, I do not want to stay behind for this nuclear holocaust that's about to happen because it's about to get ugly. And, I'd rather jump ship and just enjoy life. Unless they offer me a huge, I imagine Ward Manuel's going to have to offer him a huge deal to try to keep some of it together. But, what happens with that strength coach? I mean, that strength coach is probably the best strength coach in America right now because you saw what he did to that team. A bunch of 3-star guys whooped everybody. They looked in great shape, really physically fit. Does he go to LA? Does he get a huge deal to stay at Michigan? I think it's all contingent on Sharon Moore. How much of the organization stays? Because I could see Minter, the DC, getting an NFL job or going with Harbaugh to the league. There's just so many moving parts. Because again, like, for Sharon Moore, obviously to be the head coach of Michigan would be amazing. But if your hands are tied and they're throwing you off the boat, then I mean that's no fun. I mean you don't want to deal with all those sanctions that you didn't really earn. But yeah, I think Orgy's got to be the guy at quarterback. Larry Daniels, thanks for being a Scoop Ultra member. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the 5. Great timing. It was very boring waiting for the playoff games to start. Your thoughts on yesterday's games? The Browns walked into a buzzsaw. It sucks. Again, I thought the Browns had a fantastic season. I thought their offensive line coach did as good of a job as I've ever seen. But it was just kind of like one of those things where it was just one of those days. And again, I'm telling you, in football, there's some days where it's just not your day. And yesterday was not the Browns' day. I mean, everything that could go wrong went wrong. The defense, the weirdest stat I think I've ever seen in my entire life is, the Browns had, an incredible defense this year. They were first in the league, I think, in scoring defense at home, and last in or total is either scoring defense or total defense, because JJ Watt posted this stat on his Twitter. First in the league at home, last in the league on the road, like 32nd on the road. And I don't know if it was yards per game or points per game, but it was like, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, because like, Brown Stadium is like, it's a good home advantage, but it's not like it's like some, dome that's got insane loudness, or at Penn State. I mean, it's just a regular stadium. I mean, it's 75,000 people, whatever. But that stat is like mind blowing. But I mean, CJ Stroud's really good. I mean, CJ Stroud is better than anybody could have projected. Again, even the most rosy colored Ohio State fan, couldn't imagine CJ Stroud. I mean, CJ Stroud probably should win the NFL MVP. He probably won't, because they'll probably give it to McCaffrey or Purdy or Lamar. But really, CJ is the MVP. I mean, it's not even close at this point. I mean, dude, he took the second worst team in the league and turned them into a team that could go beat Baltimore next week. Now, I don't think they will, because Baltimore, their defense is a different level right now. And Lamar is Lamar. He's not Joe Flacco. But yeah, it was sad to see the Browns go out like that. But when you're down to your like 5th and 6th string tackles, like I've never seen that in the history of football, how many injuries they had on the O-line, let alone the defense, let alone safety. I mean, it was crazy. Amari Cooper's out there on one foot. Chubb, obviously, the devastating knee injury. But what were your thoughts on yesterday, Nevada? I mean, obviously, the night game was about predicted. And here's the thing. This is the last thing I'll say, and I'll turn over to you, Nevada. The Miami Dolphins should be a great case study for Ryan Day. Because Ryan Day, because again, I go on, and I'm the old head. I'm the old, whatever. And I don't like to be the old former player, whatever. But my thing is, finesse doesn't work when the weather's cold. It doesn't. I mean, Miami had the most explosive, fast, beautiful, finesse, soft team, soft offense, soft everything. And when it got a little cold out, a little windy out, it all died. Everything died. Because you know what wins in November? Running the ball and playing great defense. And you know what Miami doesn't do? Run the ball. I mean, they ran the ball like when it was 85 and sunny and they could run their vertical stuff and do whatever. But when it got cold out and they got pushed around a little bit, they went into their shell because they're a soft team. They're a soft finesse football team. That's what they've always been. And really, and Vic Fangio is as tough of nose guys as there is, but it has to start at the top. Vic Fangio is kind of like, he's like a Jim Knowles. Like he's probably the best defensive coordinator in the NFL, but it starts at the top, and you can't talk about being tough. You have to actually be tough. And that's why this spring, run the ball. I mean, you got Quinshawn and Trey now. You have the 2 best running backs in the country on the same team. So it's time to get physical, because if it gets windy and cold, God forbid we host a playoff game in the Horseshoe and it snows, like the Chuck and Duck stuff, that's where Chuck and Duck goes to die. Because you watched it last night, all of a sudden Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill weren't nearly as fast when it was 0 degrees and windy, and it can get cold in Ohio. But your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, don't play that game in the stadium. Play the game in Indy, Lucas Oil Field. That way we can stay nice and warm. And I'm channeling my Gene Smith
Oh my
impression.
God.
So yeah, for you old guys, let's play in the cold. No, man. Gene Smith says let's go play in another city in a dome. So way to go, Gene. But no, look, I thought the Browns were actually in the game, and I thought Flacco was kind of dealing, and then he was kind of. It was like, how does that happen? A little at first, then all at once. He was dealing until he wasn't, and then pick six, and then it just kind of got away. But yeah, Browns just too many injuries. Not enough defense at the end of the year, and Flacco kind of flaccoed himself. So hopefully today's a better day. But I echo your things about being able to run the ball. I mean, look at Pacheco. Pacheco, 7th-round draft pick from Rutgers, and he provided a toughness for Kansas City that really kind of rubs off on that entire team, and it just shows you how stuff like that can really because let's face it, Kansas City's not a tough team, but Pacheco's a tough dude, and when he runs hard and when he does that, it's infectious. And like I said, it was a great thing to see, and that was a fun game, and today's going to be another couple of fun games, so I'm looking forward to it.
And the thing I'll say about Kansas City is like they're not fun. I mean, I don't know if I would totally disagree. See, I think that the problem when you say they're not a tough team is because you see Mahomes is the whiniest player, and they get more calls. They either get more calls or they have less calls called than any team I've ever seen.
Can I just say something? Because you're talking about Mahomes and the gun. Now, Mahomes has got a helmet that's broken. How is Kansas City not required to use a timeout? How are the referees stopping the game for them to allow him to change his helmet?
I've never, if your helmet pops off, if it just accidentally comes off, you have to leave for a play. He had literally a portion of his helmet. Because again, like, imagine if if someone hits the right spot, and again, there's still another protective shell under there, but it's like, dude, like, that there's literally a piece of his protective shell is missing. And then the next play, they let him play without either of his chin straps buckled. And I'm like, dude, like, he has a soft shell on. I mean, you could get killed, literally. I mean, like, dude, if a guy comes in under you with the shell of his helmet and no chin strap, like, I mean, but again, the officials they're mind blowing. Go ahead, I'll let you finish.
No, but I just don't understand. Like just to your point about the officials just falling all over themselves for Mahomes or for Kansas City. I've never seen, like, if you have an equipment problem, you have to go off the field or your team has to call timeout. Like, it's not incumbent upon the officials to hold up the game while you go change your helmet. Like, what that? I just couldn't believe I saw that. And he is the most whiniest Kermit the Frog out there playing. I'm not rooting for Mahomes. I'm definitely not rooting for Kansas City. So I'm sure my disdain for them is shining through.
Yeah, I kind of want to look at odds for what their odds are to make the Super Bowl. Because again, like, I watched Donovan Smith, their left tackle. I watch the offensive line every single play, especially the tackles. Juwan Taylor. I mean, those guys they get away with more just like catastrophically bad holding calls than I've ever seen. I mean, not like kind of, sort of, almost. Like, I mean, where they're like they are beat and they grab the guy from behind or they latch his arm. Stuff that is like dead to rights holds every time, and they don't call it against Kansas City, which is why, Mahomes, but, their interior three is really good. Like Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith. I mean, those guys are really good. And then Joe Tooney's an Ohio kid who we missed on, sadly. But I mean, those guys are real good players. And again, that's why when people get obsessed with these 5 stars and stuff, well, Joe Tooney was like a 3-star from Northeast Ohio. And I think he went to NC State. But that's a kid that should have been a Buckeye because he's really good. But anyways, there's just sometimes, again, I'm not going to go pie. I'm not going to go tinfoil hat guy. But like, is there anything the NFL and the networks would want more in this entire universe than for the Chiefs to make the Super Bowl so they can show Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl nonstop? Because I'm telling you, like, I mean, the way that they can't stop putting her on camera is just, it ruins the game. And Travis Kelce's gone in the toilet this year. But, you think about like Super Bowl ratings with the Chiefs, Mahomes, and Taylor Swift. Like, again, I'm not going to go pie in the sky, but when you see these guys getting all these calls, you're just like, well, I can kind of see maybe what they're getting at. Because now, guess what? They got another week of Taylor Swift probably at Buffalo or where they end up. And, it's going to be her doing swag surfing and all the other dumb stuff they have her on TV doing. Tora, what is up, brother? Appreciate you, my man. Thank you for the 20. I hope you're having a great Sunday. Kirk, what's up? I hope you get healthy, drink some honey and tea. I agree with Nevada. 100% Michigan had to sell their soul to the devil just to win the Natty. Only to get stripped away very soon. Tora, man, you're the best. Seriously, I appreciate you. You and Tony Turley are leading the charge for Pay It Forward. We got another guy signed up today, so thank you for that. But again, yeah, Michigan, they sold out, man. And again, these guys are going to be, they can buy all their gear, buy their hats, they can buy their T-shirts, the national championship, locker room tees that are selling like crazy for Michigan fans. But soon they're going to look as stupid as the people that wore like Live Strong bracelets in like '06 and '07. They have the little stupid John Kerry, little stupid yellow bracelets on. And then they figure out they were supporting a guy that was a complete liar and a total fraud. And all of a sudden you're just like, man, I can't believe I was wearing that. Like that's what their fan base is going to feel like and look like. And honestly, I can't wait because it couldn't happen to a bigger group of total douchebags than Michigan fans. Expedition Greg, thanks for the deuce. Any word on Caleb Downs? Minute by minute, man. I mean, I think that T-Rob, Travaris Robinson going to Georgia to be their new co-DC safeties coach was a final shot across the bow at Caleb Downs. Caleb came for Saban and T-Rob. They're both gone. And the thing I would wonder if I'm a guy of the caliber of Caleb Downs is, he probably had Nick Saban sitting in his living room like every player does for that home visit they get. So, coach, are you going to be here for my 3 years? I want to be here for 3 years. I'm going to go to the league, or 4 years, whatever. Will you be here? And like, I wonder how many times Nick Saban had to say yes or yes. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be at the University of Alabama. This is my home. Me and Miss Terry love it. We're building, the program, the process, blah, blah, blah. Like, I wonder how many times he lied about that. And again, I'm not faulting Nick Saban for lying because you don't have a choice. You have to say, of course, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there for as long as they'll have me. But everything can change if one day you wake up and you don't feel too hot, or you're losing your energy, or you can't do it at the level you want to do it at anymore. And I think that that's something that probably happened this year. I mean, Nick Saban said himself, like, he had to do a tremendous amount of work on defense this year, which means that's AKA my D coordinator sucked. Kevin Steele. Kevin Steele retired a day before Nick Saban did. And so I had to basically take the controller out of his hands, and I had to run the thing because it wasn't up to the snuff that I wanted it to be at, and he wasn't doing it the way I wanted to do it. Similar to something I could see Ryan Day doing if he doesn't like Jason Candle or Liam Cohen or Joe Brady or whoever he hires. If he doesn't, run the program the way he wants it, then Ryan's going to take the play sheet back. And again, that's something he's got to fight himself internally, tooth and nail. But I think that's something Saban had enough of, and the defense wasn't to the snuff that he wanted at, and he had to run it. So, when you're a young guy, you can do that. When you're an older guy, it's a lot harder. My high school coach was great friends with Nick Saban. Like, Nick Saban offered him a job at Toledo, wanted him to be his DB coach. He didn't take it, ended up coaching high school football for 50 years. But him and Saban are really tight, and they're the same guy. They both call it on both sides. They call it. They run the program the same way. They're tough guys. And so, and those guys, they like to be in control. Nevada, your thoughts on Caleb Downs? We kind of touched on it a little bit, but any other things to add other than my tidbits?
No, everybody's gone. The DC's gone. His position coach is gone. Saban's gone. They're all gone. And that's tough to keep Humpty Dumpty together when everybody's gone. That was part of his recruitment and part of his first year, very successful year at Alabama. So it's definitely one that's in play and something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, and those of you guys who have joined us recently, we got Dominic Kirks' film. He's likely to commit here in the next few days, so I get that on as we answer these super chats. Chris S., thank you for the 10. Appreciate you, my friend. If I were a GM for any NFL team, this is a great one. I wouldn't touch McCarthy with a 10-foot pole. Man, I totally agree. He's not an NFL quarterback, plus the cheating, no way. He's a bust, right, guys? Why waste big? I couldn't agree with you more on that. I think that he is very limited. I think that he took advantage of a down year in college football. He got very lucky against us. He made some great plays against us. I'm not going to take anything away from that guy. When he's extending plays and throwing, across his body and completing it and hitting guys on the sideline and that kind of stuff. Like that's great if you're having your luck, the luckiest day of your life. But in the NFL, you're going to get killed doing that. The pass rushes are too good. The defenses are too good. Like you can't just go out and scramble like that unless you're Lamar or you're built like Josh Allen. You're a tank. You got to either be a tank or like a Bugatti, and that's the only way you can survive. When you're a Fiat like JJ McCarthy is, like it ain't gonna be fun for you because these D ends and D tackles are way better. And I mean, you're gonna go to a team and yeah, you're gonna think you're fast, but when you go against those dudes, I mean, they're faster than you and they're way bigger than you and they're going to kill you. Um, and that's just kind of it is what it is. Again, you saw like Houston's pass rush destroyed us yesterday. I mean, their DNs, their D tackles. I mean, it was a clinic tape, but what they're doing with the pass rush and those guys can run. Like guys like Will Anderson, excuse me, Will Smith, Will Anderson, Sheldon Rankins. Like they had really good pass rushers up front, and it was too much for a depleted offensive line. And in the league, man, I don't think JJ's got the arm strength and the vertical game to succeed in the NFL. Because the thing that has made CJ great, outside of his processing, is he has great touch, and he kept finding Ronnie Hickman, and Ronnie had the worst day of his career yesterday. It was worse than the Michigan game a couple years ago, where they kept finding Ronnie, man, and like Dalton Schultz is just running wide open, and like when they gave like a 75-yard touchdown to the backup tight end, I was like, yeah, this probably isn't going to be the Browns' day. When the backup tight end goes for 75 against you, it wasn't Devin Hester or Tyreek, it was a backup tight end. Then I'm like, yeah, this might not be the day for the Brownies. Your thoughts on JJ in the league, Nevada?
Well, look, one of the funnest things going to be is going to the combine. Because I've been assured, mind you, that JJ runs a 4.440, and I want to see him blaze that 4.440 at the NFL Combine, and I've got money on this.
Now you have to say the genesis of that. You can't just say because when you say the way you say it, it's going to be like one of your agents. No, you gotta say that. What's the genesis of that, Nevada? It's not like some agent or some training guy. It's some guy from our message board said that.
People, from the message board. People from the Michigan side.
Were they for it was people from the Michigan side?
On top of that, they've all insisted he's a 4.4 guy, and I'm just like, I want to see this 4.4 blazing speed from JJ McCarthy that I've been told about. He's feng shui. He's got the shoes going the other way. He quietly goes off and does the little meditation for the game, but nobody sees him. And then he goes out there and he blazes a 4.4. So I want to see him blaze that 4.4. Maybe he'll run it barefoot. It's possible he'll run it barefoot. And he'll kind of do the thing like kind of the Kenyans used to do in the marathon. He could run it barefoot. He could run it backwards. JJ might run it backwards. He could run a 4.4 backwards, and that would be even more incredible. But I just can't wait to see his 40 time because it's going to be amazing.
I mean, could you meditate in the locker room? Is it like way more quiet in the locker room? It usually is.
No. You go to the goalpost and nobody sees you there. They don't even notice. So all this other stuff's going on. You can be there and you can be by yourself and quiet and kind of dominate the field, man. You got to go out there and dominate the field.
So dumb. J. Willie 75, Michigan fans talking trash, saying it's sad. It's been 10 years since we won the title. Okay, when it took them 75 years, most dumb fan base in college football. Yeah, I mean, again, man, it's like I won't even be. It's like I don't want you to be celebrating. I mean, I get like you gotta like live in the moment, but it's like Enron at this point. It's like, hey guys, look at our big Christmas bonuses. Oh God, we're all gonna go to federal prison. Like this might not be really worth it. That's what it's like. It's like Enron. The guys, oh look at all, man, we're killing it. Woo! Do you see what we just got this month? Wow. They all said it's like, not real good. Clueless. Patty Daddy, thank you for the 5. Appreciate you. You like the creative uses of the 4s is A's, like that. It's like some Xbox stuff. It would be huge to get Jason Candle as OC. I think a lot of people underestimate how good of a coach he is. I love watching his offenses. A lot of smoke about Liam Coen from Kentucky. Kind of has had an interesting rise. He's 38. He's a guy. He was with the Rams. He's actually with the Rams last year. He went from Kentucky to the LA Rams. He was at the LA Rams for a year, but he was the OC at LA. But, he's kind of like a Brian Hartline OC where he's not really the OC. It's just a title. because he wasn't the play caller. Like Sean McVay's the play caller. Everybody in the universe knows that. So when you go out to be the LA Rams OC, like you're just kind of a receivers coach. You're like Brian is. It's cool to have that title, and I'm sure you get up and give a rah speech in front of the offense, but you're not the real OC like Ryan Day is because he's calling the plays. But Jason, is a guy that's been at Toledo for a while, like 7-8 years now, ever since Campbell went out to Iowa State. And again, I like the thought of hiring a guy who has head coaching experience to run a side of the ball. Again, I talked about this on our message board. When you look at Jim Knowles has been coaching for a long time. But, back in, a long time ago, he was the head coach at Cornell. And, that's his alma mater. And you guys say, oh, well, it's Cornell, whatever. But when you're the head coach, all of a sudden, like, you're the guy. Like, you actually have a real win-loss record when you're the head coach. When you're just an assistant all over the place, they don't track your win-loss record as an assistant. When you're a head coach, they absolutely do. So, his experience, I feel like, as the head coach at Cornell is something that is, I think, invaluable to the position he's in now, where he wants to sit in his side of the building where the defensive coaches are and have Ryan leave him alone and let him kind of be the micro head coach of Ohio State, like the mini head coach, just for the side of the ball that he's on, the defense. And again, I think that the organization, I think that the leadership, I think that dealing with personalities and solving problems is something that you don't really get to experience until you're actually like a head coach. Ryan's figuring that out right now. And that's why I think Jason Candle is the guy that I would lean with over Liam, Joe Brady, some of these guys. I don't think we have a real shot at Joe Brady. It'd be amazing. I think, from a technical deal, I think Joe Brady would be the best fit ever just because of his experience with Josh Allen this year. But Jason, when you've run a MAC program and they've been successful, they've won it, but he's kind of it's kind of like at this point in his career, he's kind of like running on a treadmill where he might be able to jump up a little bit to maybe the worst Big Ten job, maybe like a Northwestern or a job like that. But if he wants to get that next huge job, I think he has to go to a place like Ohio State and be an OC. Because again, like Sean Lewis went from making like 4 or 5 or 600 at Kent to 800 at Colorado to he's making like 1.5 million at San Diego State now. And that's in 1 year, literally. Like he left Kent State as a head coach to go with Coach Prime. It was a disaster, but then, he lands San Diego State, which is a great job. You get to live in San Diego, you make double your salary. And that's a launching spot, man. I mean, Brady Hoke got the Michigan job out of there. Brian Billick coached there. There's a lot of big names that have coached at San Diego State. But I think, I think from an organizational standpoint, for Ryan Day to have his best chance to actually be the CEO of the program, hiring a guy like Jason Candle, it makes all the sense in the world. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, no, I think it's an underrated point about having a guy that's got head coaching experience. And, I just think this is a rare opportunity for somebody because, as Ryan Day's gone out on this, people realize that this OSU offense right now is kind of in that rare, it's one of those, you've got a quarterback with 50 games experience. You've got the 2 best running backs in the country. You've got the best wide receiver. I mean, it's a lot of toys to play with for an offensive coordinator. So it's really an offensive coordinator's dream. And for all these guys that are looking at this, an offensive coordinator job at a major school is always a launching pad to something else. And there's not a better launching pad than to be with one of the potentially most prolific offenses in college football history. You've got all the toys, you've got all the accoutrement. And as I mentioned in the last 2 shows, Ryan Day has an unlimited budget. So the bigger the name, it doesn't matter if it's Bill O'Brien or Liam or Candle or, I mean, everybody's in play because we have no financial limitations in terms of it, and we may get a great one and done, but that's what you're looking for. That college football has become kind of a series of one and done right now, especially on the offensive side, and I think that's kind of where we're at. And it's going to be interesting to see who he lands for 2024 because all the tools are there, all the toys are there to have just a great season.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because something that that'll be interesting going forward is if they hire Jason or they hire Liam Cohen, is do they get to bring anybody? Because sometimes when you're a guy, a lot like Jim Knowles. Like I think Ryan had to rectify a mistake that he made when he hired Perry Ariano and didn't let Jim Knowles fill out his staff. I mean, it was basically like he hired Jim Knowles and then he hired Jim Knowles' entire staff, which usually isn't how it works. Normally it's, and I'm sure Jim probably sat in the interviews, but Jim probably wanted Matt Uriani to be the guy from Jump Street because he knows his defense better than, as good as Jim does. So, when you're trying to install everything, it's better when, there's some synergy, in the back end and in the front end of the room. Jim Knowles is sitting at the linebackers looking at the front seven. You'd have Matt in the back running the coverage. And I think that was a mistake to hire Perry Ariano, but again, you live and learn. He was a hot name, Sauce Gardner, Kobe Bryant won the Thorpe Award, so it made sense. I think, if you hire Liam Cohen, does it put Eric Wolford into the offensive line room? Because he's a free agent now. He got whacked at Bama with Saban. Doesn't look like he's getting retained in Bama unless something's changed in the last hour. So that's a guy that he was the head coach at Youngstown State. He did really good work at Kentucky. I did not think his offensive line was fantastic this past year at Bama. Now, they looked great against Georgia, but they really were not good against Michigan. So, again, does that get Justin Fry cleared out? What about Tony Alford as our running back coach? Again, there's sometimes a concession if you really want a guy to say, hey, well, you get to name your staff. You got to keep Brian Hartline, but everybody else could be cleared out. So it's going to be very, 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 very exciting. And I think
I mean, look, Alford just landed Judkins, so you got Judkins and Henderson, so it'd be really hard to justify that. And as we've talked about, Justin Fry is literally Ryan Day's best friend, and so, I know I've heard rumors about that and rumblings about that, but boy, that would be a shocker. That'd be the shocker of shockers if he moved on Justin Fry, because those guys are close. And if that happened, then you'd absolutely know that Ryan is serious. He's basically fired like the last guy he can fire before he fires himself if he moved on Justin Fry. But I'd have to really see that one to believe it.
Well, let's go back to Al Washington. Al Washington was the guy that was here, and they knew each other from Boston College, and Ryan convinced him to not take the SEC coordinator job at Tennessee, where he's going to make $4.5 million over 3 years. But
Fry's like in his wedding. I'm talking about like a personal closeness. I'm not talking about a professional relationship. I'm talking about these are bestest buddies.
Him and Al were like brothers. Literally, and then he whacked him a year later. Oh yeah, absolutely. So I'm just saying, like, I don't think. At some point, Ryan's.
Okay, well, we'll have a little wager on this. If the next time we're in Vegas,
what's the bet? That Justin Fry's going to get fired? I didn't say that.
Yeah, if Justin Fry doesn't get fired, then you buy all the drinks.
I didn't say that. What? Now here's the deal. When did I say that? Don't put words in my mouth.
No, that's what I'm talking. I'm trying to set.
I didn't say that. Okay. What's the wager? There's no wager. I didn't say he's getting fired. I'm saying he could get fired. I didn't say he's getting fired. There's a difference. Okay, if Liam Cohen gets the job, then all of a sudden it's like, But I'm saying, like, don't like make a wager like, okay, well I'm gonna wager that. Okay, I'm gonna bet you. Okay, you're gonna say the Browns are gonna win the Super Bowl. Okay, great. All right, we're wagered. We're done. You said the Browns are gonna win the Super Bowl. Great. Hey, good. Good wager. You didn't say that. Well, that was a wager. So there's our wager. All right, the Fong. Thanks for tooth.
We'll do the 4-4 McCarthy wager, and we'll parlay it to the Justin Fry.
David Hankins, $5. Whatever. I never said that. I said he could. I didn't say he's going to. Chesson still serve the show cause. I know. Well, that's the thing. Even in the NFL, how is Asperger's getting around this? Assume he's getting a show clause. Well, I think it was because it happened when Truss was still under contract. That's the difference. Is when Truss got smacked, he was still under contract by Ohio State, and then Roger Goodell, for whatever reason, smacked him because it felt like he was dodging the sanctions by resigning, which he didn't really resign. He got fired. But for, I guess, the particulars, he did resign. So, I think that if Jim Harbaugh doesn't have a contract and he goes and signs a new one, I think that's how he dodged it, right, Nevada?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. The key is whether or not the show cause gets handed to him when he's an employee of Michigan or if he gets out before that. I think that's kind of the read on which the NFL will kind of decide whether, or I still think it'll follow him to some degree, but it'll probably be some sort of financial sanction or something else. I think Goodell will want to do something symbolic, but I don't think it'll follow the show cause because it didn't get hit when he technically was there. And I think that's why Harbaugh's racing to get out the door.
It's interesting. Kalen DeBoer, they retained the D-line coach and the running backs coach. Nothing on the O-line coach, which sounds like he's getting whacked. That'll be really interesting. Shannon Boyle next to the 5. Miami was running the ball successfully, but when they went to the stupid wide receiver screens, it didn't work. They kept doing it over and over until they lost. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that teams that are like that are obsessed with throwing it, despite having Raheem Mostert, who scored 20 touchdowns this year running the ball, like they get away from it and then they get behind and then it just turns into like an avalanche. And that's what happened to those guys last night. And again, it's also why I hate small quarterbacks that are slow, like Tua. Tua, obviously, if everything's perfect, is amazing. But when it got cold and windy out, like all of a sudden, those guys they don't last. Especially against a good pass rush like Kansas City had. So, again, they got great running backs. I mean, Mostert made the Pro Bowl, and A-Chain, was as good of a rookie running back as there was in the league. But I mean, it all falls apart when you don't believe in it. It's not the biggest thing in your repertoire. Sean Rollins, 6 for the 10. What does UFC from Kentucky's resume look like if he's a possibility? Well, I mean, I don't know. He's had a weird bounce back where he went from, he was at Kentucky and then he went to the Rams for a year and then he came back to Kentucky and now, he's, potentially an Ohio State candidate. He's a 38-year-old guy. I think he's okay, but I mean, I think that just if I'm in Brian Hartline's shoes, Brian's a 36-year-old guy. He's the OC. Again, he's really the receivers coach. Again, the OC thing is just so you can give more money. But I think Liam Cohen, it's one thing like if you give up your job and you're Brian and you're 36 to a 44-year-old who's been a head coach for 7 years, like I could be a little bit more subservient than if I give up to a guy who's like a year older than me, 38, 37-ish, whatever. But again, this guy, he didn't play in the league, which doesn't mean anything, but he was with the Rams as like an assistant to the assistant. Then he was with Kentucky. Then he came back to the Rams for a year as the OC. But again, in 2022, like the Rams, I think Sean McVay kind of parted ways with him and told him to go back to Kentucky. And he was there last year as the OC and the QB coach. So he does have more of a quarterback coaching background than Jason does. Jason's more of a wide receivers coach coming up, but I'm sure that he'd handle the quarterbacks with Ryan. Again, I don't really worry about the quarterback coaching stuff because I still feel like Ryan's going to be doing that no matter what. But yeah, I mean, that's his background since 20. He was Rams, Kentucky, which is weird. But, I don't know. I mean, I think he's okay. I mean, I'd be more excited to get the head coach at Toledo than the OC from Kentucky, but that's just my opinion. Nevada, do you have an opinion on Liam Cohen?
I mean, like I said, he has had he's a hot name, but for me, I mean, Candle's the guy for me if I've got my money on it. But we'll see. Like I'd be more excited than Candle, for all the reasons that we talked about, and I think frankly it fits better with Heartline. And that's an underrated point about it. And that's why when I heard that Candle and Heartline were having dinner in Toledo, it made a lot of sense to me why that would happen, and I think that seems like a reason to believe that he's going to be the guy.
Well, yeah, and like to be fair, like J.C. Candle's accomplished more than Brian Hartline has in his career as a coach. I mean, he's been a head coach for 7 years in the MAC. Brian's been an OC for 1 year where he wasn't the play caller. So I think that Jason could teach Brian a ton about how to run an organization, how to be, because Brian wants to be a head coach. Like, let's cut the crap. Like he wants to be a head coach at some point somewhere. Maybe at Ohio State. Maybe he wants to go like Fick and go get a job somewhere else so he can potentially be a candidate at Ohio State. But every guy that is coaching at Ohio State outside of Larry Johnson and maybe Jim Knowles wants to be a head coach. Like that's every coach's dream is to run their own program and potentially climb the ladder and get that big job. Get that, be like Kalen DeBoer. And again, Kalen DeBoer, nobody even knew existed 2 years ago. I mean, when he was the OC at Kentucky, at Indiana in 2019, I'm as hardcore of a college football guy as there is in the world. and I had no idea who the guy was. Now he's the head coach at Bama 4 years later. So again, if you put it in work and you catch the right, rod of lightning, then your whole life can change in 4 years. Sean Rollins, thank you for the 10. Get that one already. I apologize for that. Tony Turley, thank you for the 20. Fellas, beautiful Sunday at 3 degrees, suggesting an obvious nickname for Trey and Quinshawn, frightening and lightning. That would be good. I think that those guys are going to have to get a nickname. I think those guys are going to be really fun to watch. Nevada, your thoughts on the nickname frightening and lightning?
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, those guys, it's kind of an unprecedented kind of situation to have two guys like that at Ohio State. And, I think they're coming up with their own marketing. Those guys have been in touch. You got to remember, Trey recruited him to come here. And, I know you talked about that in some of the shows, but I don't think people really realize that the number one recruiter to get him here was Trey. So, those guys are they're going to be fun to watch. It'll be interesting to see how they market themselves.
Yeah, and that's like the hard part for me is like when I tell that story, I automatically assume that people realize that means Trey's coming back. Because it's not like recruiting him to say, hey, you should come here, and then I'm out the gate. Like, I mean, they're like coming back to win and be a tandem. And hey, Michigan's about to suck. And that's why, like, a guy like JT, I'm like, dude, like, why would JT declare when I'm like, dude, it's like easy mode. I mean, this is going to be easy mode. It's not easy mode. It's never easy to beat Michigan. But, dude, like, they lost their quarterback. They lost their... It's kind of like when we played Texas in 06 versus 05. Like, 05, they had Vince. And when they won the national championship, I was rooting so hard for them to win the national championship so Vince Young would go pro and we wouldn't have to see him in Austin. And when he went pro, I was like, oh, yeah, give me some of that Colt McCoy. Give me some of that redshirt freshman quarterback. I was like, I'll take that all day over Vince. And it made our life way easier. Way easier. And again, like I think that a guy like Mike Hull's going to regret going pro just because, he could have got a chunk of money, stayed, and I think this is going to be a really, really fantastic run in 2024. Josh Dillon, thanks for the 5. Last question. Do you guys think Michigan will have the 2021 season wiped out too? I think so. Yeah, absolutely. How long do you think the punishment will last? Multiple years. I mean, scholarship ban, the whole 9 yards. Your thoughts on that, Nevada?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a multiple year bowl ban, and I think they'll have their wins vacated for the years in which they were proven to be cheating, and that clearly was 21, that clearly was 22, and unless they can figure out who that Geppetto was on the sideline on September 1st, 2023 against Central Michigan, dressed as a Central Michigan coach, recording with spy glasses that looked an awful lot like Connor Stallions while he was a full-time employee of the University of Michigan. It's 2023 as well. So yeah, gonna be bad. And there's really no defense. I mean, I don't even know what the defense would be. And I keep hearing Michigan people talk about, oh, the college football playoff has nothing to do with the NCAA. No, it has everything to do with the NCAA. The college football playoff is run by the commissioners of the NCAA. They're all commissioners of the conferences, every single one of them. And, when Reggie Bush had his Heisman pulled, the NCAA doesn't run the Heisman ceremony, but the Heisman pulled the thing because he wasn't eligible. Same thing's going to happen with the college football playoff champion. It's just going to be vacant for that year. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it is. That's, like you said, it's like running out on the bill after you had that great night at the club. Somebody's going to have to pay. And, it's going to be, the only way that you can affect the team that was cheating is take away their accomplishments. And that's what's going to happen for Michigan.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be epic when it all comes down. Troy Brewer, thanks for the 10. Kirk, what about changing the spring game to the beat them all day? And what does it take to beat them? I assume you mean Michigan. Toughness, an entire practice of nothing but drills to shore up toughness and to underscore it. Yeah, I mean, I love that idea. I wish that they'd do more. Honestly, at this point with the spring game, I wish they just do more of a practice and they do inside run and some of the drills that you do in a traditional practice, because the spring game is impossible to watch anymore because it's two-hand touch. They don't tackle. The backup quarterbacks don't get tackled. It's a running clock. Like, it's impossible to watch. I wish they just do a practice, and just script plays and run them. And, again, you're not going to, if you got to run vanilla plays, that's fine. But at least, like, let's see some good on good, because most of the good players don't play in the spring game. They usually play a drive or whatever, and they're done. But I'd love to see some of these guys, mix it up a little bit in the shoe. See, the good, good offense versus good defense. I'd make Lincoln Keenholz live. I'd make Aaron Nolan live. I mean, God, I'd make Devin live. I mean, Devin hasn't been hit. He needs to get hit a little bit and not get hurt. I wouldn't make Will Howard live, but if you're not the starter, you should be live. And then you got to put some pressure on the offensive line to block. Because again, it's a different mentality when you're offensive tackle. If you know that, hey, if this guy gets around me, our quarterback's going to get hurt or he's going to get hit. Because again, I just you remember like when you go out to that first real game, there ain't no black jerseys, there ain't no two hand touch, so it adds a little bit more anxiety to your mix because you're like, hey, if I screw up, this guy could get killed. So I like that because I like to see what players can handle that anxiety and not buckle because some guys do. And I also like to see who can win in a pass rush and finish a quarterback, get him to the ground. And I think it's good to see young guys tackling space out in the horseshoe. But I think to beat him, man, it's just Trust used to always have a role. He's the tougher team always wins. Tougher, and so you look at those last 3 years against Michigan. Were we the tougher team? I don't think so. I mean, you just look at the stats. I mean, we weren't. And again, did they cheat? Yeah, sure. But this past year they didn't have Connor Stallions, and they made plays when we didn't, and we couldn't complete easy passes, and this guy is what it is. So I think we got to get back to being a tougher program because Michigan's tougher than we are right now. Now, if Harbaugh leaves and he takes that with him, because the thing is I'll give credit where credit is due. Jim Harbaugh was 0-5 to start his career, stuck with it, and then he got that thing rocking, and they became a real physical team. They out-physicaled Alabama. They were tougher than Bama, and then they just murdered a soft Washington team. I mean, 300 yards rushing in the national championship is it set the record, so it says all you really need to know. But they were a physical outfit, and again, we've lost our physicality because we've become such a chuck and duck outfit, and Ryan has to get that back. And that means you got to run the ball even when it's not working, and you got to keep running it to build some toughness up front. Because I'm telling you, that's what it takes. Sean, thanks for the 5. UM will be 8-4 next year, and the recruiting has been a joke. Future is grim for those cheaters. 8-4 might be kind, because Texas is going to get them. We're going to get them. Washington is going to be down. Oregon is going to get them for sure. Penn State, they've got a monster schedule, guys. And then they got SC. I mean, I have no idea. SC is probably going to be a train wreck just because they've lost a lot of people. Nevada, you think 8-4 for Michigan or worse?
No, I think 8-4. That sounds about right. But I want to go back to something we were talking about earlier about Michigan and this run that they've been on. Look, they were cheating in 21 and 22 against us. This year, Alabama, it took a miracle comeback. They were down against Alabama late, had to do a late drive, survive in overtime. We were one throw away from beating them. It's funny how narratives change with all one play. I mean, you guys in 2005 were down 9 points to Michigan with 6.5 minutes to go, and it took some Troy Smith incredible magic to pull that one out and stuff. And I think Michigan they've had a game plan. They developed some confidence from cheating from 21 and 22 fully. That's clearly what was going on those years, and they were fortunate. I mean, they had stuff break their way this year in terms of doing it. But I personally hate things like they're tougher or they're this or they're that or whatever it is. I think that they play with a more serious mind. I like the way that they play to use 4 downs to make 10 yards. I like the way that they've got kind of a simple offense that's well executed. But I think this whole toughness thing is going to go out the door this year. We'll see how tough they are in Columbus in 2024. I think it's going to be like they took the limitless pill and now they ran out. They don't have their supply anymore, and we'll see if they're magically tough in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, it's because we don't know who their coach is going to be either. I mean, it's not going to be Jim Harbaugh. So, I mean, it could be...
Sharon Moore. It'd be Sharon Moore.
It could easily be him.
Same guy beat us this year. We'll see how tough he is in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that'll be interesting with him is how much of the staff stays with him versus goes with Harbaugh versus takes other jobs. Because, I mean, their last DC's the DC for the Ravens now he's up for an NFL job. So, if you're Jesse Minter, do you stay there or do you go with Jim Harbaugh to LA and, get a fresh start and try to launch into the NFL? Because, I mean, he's obviously wants to be a head coach. He's not going to supplant Sharon Moore anytime soon if he becomes the guy. Because that's what I'd be judging. Is like, if I'm Sharon Moore, I'd go with Jim Harbaugh. There's no way I'd stay at Michigan because, you don't want to be stuck in a 3-year quagmire and then having to dig yourself out of that. Because I just, I don't know. Like, I mean, Mike McDonald, who went to John Harbaugh and is the DC, and he's going to be seeing CJ Stroud next week. Like, that guy is like a hot coaching candidate now. Baltimore's defense is incredible. And he'll be an NFL head coach probably within 2 years if he keeps running the defense the way he is. So, you know, it just, in coaching, it's like so much like timing, you know, it's like timing is everything. And it's like if you get out of that place at the right time and you go with the right guy and you raise your status, then all of a sudden, you know, because like I think Jim Harbaugh, man, he gets Justin Herbert, you know, I mean, they already got Joey Bosa. They got real guys on defense over there too. They're just the most. I mean, the LA Chargers is the most poorly coached team I've ever seen. I mean, that coach they had this year, Brandon Staley, was impossibly bad. When you have Herbert, Keenan Allen, and Rashawn Slater's like a Pro Bowl tackle, and like to be as bad as they were, it was almost insane. I mean, Khalil Mack made the Pro Bowl. He had like 18 sacks. You know, and Joey got hurt, but Derwin James, you know, they got a Pro Bowl corner. I mean, I don't know how you can be that bad with that many good players. Sean Kruka, thanks for the 5. Safe to assume it's becoming more than likely downstays at Bama. I wouldn't say that at all because he doesn't even know who his coach is. He doesn't know who his DC is. He doesn't know who his safeties coach is. I mean, he might meet the guy and hate him. You know, again, that's like the thing about the staff is like, I'm sure I guarantee he's the number one guy they're trying to keep. But, you know, dude, like you don't, he doesn't even know who's coaching him. Like if he goes to that staff room, unless they've named him in the last hour, he doesn't know who his guy is. He might hate him, you know, and that's what happens with these coaching changes is sometimes you go from a guy that you love, like T-Rob and Nick Saban, to guys you hate. And again, if I'm Caleb Downs, dude, and I watched that defense from the last 2 games, just the last 2 games, he might never have watched a Washington game in his life until these last 2 games where he was, you know, watching film. And I'd be like, I'm not playing in that. Are you crazy? You know, unless you get like a big time SEC guy to run that defense, like, dude, that Washington defense ain't gonna do nothing. They're so unsound against like good teams like Texas and Michigan that it almost cost them because their defense was atrocious. You know, and again, and his career and being a potential first round pick is on the line. So why would you ever want to risk that? Nevada, do you feel that way about Downs? Do you feel like it is more likely he stays at Bama, or is it too early to call?
Way too early to call. I mean, this is a big decision. I mean, like you said, there's so much that's unknown right now, and he's just gathering information, having his people gathering information. Plenty of time to make the decision. I never expected this to happen like in 24 or 48 hours. I know people like to see that, and they get a little impatient, but no, I actually I know that there are conversations ongoing, so let's just allow it to play out.
Well, I mean, he's got 30 days. It's not like he has 30 minutes. So, I mean, the guy can sit there,
exactly,
see where the program's at, see if it's going to go in the tank, see if this is, you know, a Mike Price hire or, you know, one of the turd hires that have been made by these guys. Because, again, I think Bama's going to fall back to earth, like, in a major way. You know, and again, I think this guy's a good coach, but, you know, Bama wasn't Bama until Saban got there. You know, it's like where Saban goes, all of a sudden they become this monstrous organization where they're the class of college football and the pinnacle. But, you know, between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, they were nothing, you know, and I think, you know, maybe 91 they won a title, but other than that, it was the doldrums. And again, I said it before, and I don't like to go in the Wayback Machine, but like when I played from early 2000s to mid 2000s or, you know, early, you know, 2007-ish, like they were never a factor in anything. Like, we were never like, oh, my God, did you see how good Alabama looked? Like, that didn't exist. I mean, my senior year was Saban's first year, and they lost to Louisiana Lafayette at home. Literally. Like, the Alabama Crimson Tide, the machine, the process, the GOAT, Nick Saban, lost to is either Louisiana Lafayette or Louisiana Monroe. It was one of those, like, Louisiana teams. And I was like, how on earth does that team beat Alabama? I mean, they don't have better players than those guys. And then, you know, obviously, Saban turned up, you know, to 08, 09, where he became the dominator. But that first year, man, they sucked. Clueless of Pat Daddy, do you believe the new OC we hire will be responsible in grooming Heartline into a play caller? Yes. And do you believe that Day is looking to go to the NFL soon? No, I don't think so. I mean, because obviously if there was a job that he'd be into, it would have been that Patriots job, and there was no smoke about that at all. And I think that, you know, he wants some redemption, and I think he's about to get it. I think Jim Harbaugh's taking off. Michigan's going to get, you know, canned. He's got this loaded team. Saban's retiring. Like he's kind of in the catbird seat. The NIL stuff's doing great. I wouldn't want to leave this thing after he's built it into what it is. Because I could if Ryan Day really wanted the Patriots job over Gerard Mayo, could he have gotten it? Yes. I mean, he's a quarterback developer. They need a quarterback. Magically, Bill Belichick, who's the GOAT, all of a sudden was like, he went from being like the GOAT to being like the GOAT on the side of the hill eating like a can, like a bunch of cans and trash after Brady left. Because when you don't have a quarterback, no matter how great your defensive schemes are, you're not going to win in the league. That's how it is. And the thing I keep telling people about Ryan when they say, I want Mike Vrabel or I want this guy or that guy or whoever is like, look, Ryan Day is a quarterback wizard. And that's the number one attribute I want in my head coach. He's got to be able to develop a quarterback. That's it. That's why Cliff Kingsbury got a job. Cliff Kingsbury is nowhere near as good as Ryan Day. And so Ryan, he's put CJ Stroud in the league, and CJ Stroud's probably going to win, I don't know, 5 or 6 MVPs during the course of his career. Why would you ever want to move on that guy? You want to keep that guy happy, give him as much money as he needs, give him as much money as he needs to keep his organization strong, and just let him have at it. So yeah, I don't think he's going to the NFL, but I think Jason Candle could be one of those guys that could really ignite Brian Hartline because he's young enough to mentor him, teach him. The thing I like about Jason is he's coming in from a whole new organization. He comes from an unbelievable coaching tree. He worked with Matt Campbell. Tim Beckman was there. He was at Mount Union with Nick Sirianni. In that Mount Union room back in the day, there were a ton of guys all through the NFL that were in that Mount Union room, all through college football. So he's got a big coaching tree there that he could follow. So I like Jason because again, I'm very much Ryan Day needs to be the CEO of the program, and if you have a guy who's ran an entire program, and now he just has to run the offensive staff room, I think he can really do that. Mike Green, thank you for the 5. If Ryan is gone, who is up next? God, I have no idea. I mean, if it was today, it'd probably be Vrabes because he's a free agent. But again, does he want to be an NIL guy? Probably not. But I would honestly have no idea. But I mean, Mike Vrabel is a free agent. I'm sure he'd get a call. And Caleb, corner coach at Georgia, is now corner coach, his safeties coach at Georgia, T-Rob. Will that change his mind at OSU? I don't think so. I mean, I think that, what we've got going on, and especially how we need safeties, he'd walk right in and start. Your thought on that, Nevada? If Ryan's gone, who's up next? I have no idea because Ryan's not going to be going anywhere for a while. And Caleb's safety coaches at Georgia, would that change anything with Georgia? I don't think so because I don't think he had good feelings with Georgia.
Nah, there's history with him at Georgia that I've heard repeatedly from people close to him that I'd be shocked if he'd end up at Georgia. I've been told if he goes to the portal, it's to Ohio State. So we'll see. As for Day, let's not. I mean, it'd just be so hard. You got the usual. You could, Fickle if he balls out at Wisconsin, Vrabel, Matt Campbell. Yeah, I mean, you got the usual suspects, but let's hope we don't have to cross that bridge for a long time.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to worry about that because I think if you ask Alabama fans 2 years ago to name 100 coaches that could take Nick Saban's job, none of them would have said Caleb DeVore. He would have been like 150 probably because he'd just got the Washington job. He was at Fresno State. Like, there's nobody in the universe is saying that's going to be the next guy to succeed Saban. Everyone was saying Dabo, Kirby Smart, whoever, anybody but him. David Hankins, thanks for the 5. People saying we might play Scum twice next year. Think we have a better chance to play Oregon twice, maybe Penn State twice. Thoughts on the new Big Ten? I think Oregon's going to be this team. I mean, I don't think we're going to see Michigan again. I don't think Michigan's going to be even close, honestly. And again, that's not me being a hater. I'm just being honest. Like, I just look at what's coming back and what they're about to lose. If Harbaugh takes off, come on, guys. Like, I get Sean Moore can keep the train on the tracks when he only has to coach on Saturday, but running the whole organization is a monstrous task. And Jim Harbaugh is fantastic at it. Again, he made the 49ers into a juggernaut. They were really good. They were a play away from winning the Super Bowl. He turned Michigan around from being okay to being where they are now. Can Sherrod Moore keep that up? Because it's hard. When Jim Harbaugh is in the building, from Sunday to Friday, and then on Saturday he has to go sit at home and watch you coach the game, you can do that. Because coaching the game is way easier. Like, coaching on Saturday is much easier than running the organization Sunday to Friday, practice, dealing with kids, players, recruiting, all that. That's the hard stuff. Coaching on Saturday is the easiest part of the entire job. Can Sharon keep that momentum up? I don't know. We're going to find out. I mean, he's a young guy. He's going to be learning on the job just like Ryan did. And, Ryan's made a lot of mistakes along the way because everybody makes mistakes. But Sharon's going to be making some fresh new mistakes. And he's not going to have Jim Harbaugh, on speed dial because Jim Harbaugh is going to be in LA running the show. And he's not going to have time to run Michigan too. So it's going to be real interesting to see if he does take that job. Because again, the other thing I get back at, because I know that we think he's the odds-on guy that's going to get the job, is like, where does the punishment stop? Because those guys, the coordinators knew, so why are they not getting punished? Why do they get to just slide right up into the big seat, into the big chair? If Harbaugh takes off, like that's what I don't get. But again, we'll talk about that at some other point. Nevada, who do you think we see in the championship game? Because I think it's got to be Oregon. I mean, Oregon's good.
I think Oregon. Maybe Penn State if they can slip in, but the Packers game is just starting up, so Nevada is going to have to run out. And shout out to the women's United States 18 under hockey team won the Worlds today, so that makes a sweep for the men and women both at 18U. Great day for USA Hockey. So
I'm sure all of you guys knew that. So thank you, Nevada, for the 18U junior hockey update. Well. Go Pack, go. Nevada's go watch this game, so we'll wrap this thing up. Again, we're going to lead right into the playoffs. I know you guys want to watch these playoff games too, just as I do. So again, I appreciate you guys as always. Thank you for the super chats. Those were huge. Excellent questions tonight, everybody. So thank you guys so much for all your patronage. Again, thank you for your support. Thank you for showing up. We're going to do this again, same time tomorrow. We're going to lead right into the playoffs. It's going to be awesome. So I'll give you about the same bat time, same bat channel. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, also click that little alert bell, and we will get this thing up and running for you guys so that when we go live, you get the alert on your phone. But then, as always, shout out where you guys are watching from. Give me a record prediction in the comments. How are we going to fare this year? I feel we're going to run the table. I think the offense is too deep. Defense is going to be nasty. It's going to be a huge year for the Bucks. I think it's going to be one of those ones you're always going to remember. So all the sadness from the Cotton Bowl should be faded away. We're on to 2024 here on Buckeye Scoop. So we appreciate you guys. If you guys do not belong to BuckeyeScoop.com, consider joining. It is the funnest, most incredible atmosphere. I mean, we have a game thread going for this Packers game, so we're going to be talking about it all game long. But we're on it 24 hours a day. So if you like the show, consider giving us a shot at BuckeyeScoop.com. It is the #1 premium Ohio State community. It's like a digital country club, and it's really fun to be a part of. So I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I'll see you on the message boards. Go Bucks.